So, welcome back to the Window Pro podcast. I'm Sharon. I'm Duncan's other half, and we're kicking off 2026 with something a little bit different. I'm going to be interviewing Duncan this time instead of
Very
him
fun.
presenting solo. So, Duncan, after almost 3 decades of experience, you've got that behind you. You've also done a whole year of interviewing podcast guests. So, some from Australia, some from the UK. We're going to take that collective wisdom and we're going to answer one of the questions you get asked most often, and that's how do I start a window cleaning business?
Yeah, I do get that a
So
lot.
you
That
do get
is
that a
that
lot.
that is the big thing.
So we're going to look at if you were starting a window cleaning run today, 2026, beginning of 2026, how would you go about it? So
Well, I've got lots of ideas.
lots to share. So back in 1996, you got into window cleaning by buying some runs, or our UK listeners would say some rounds. Is that the way you'd go now?
Uh, yes and no, because they both have their own advantages and disadvantages. So when I started in 96, and I bought those runs, they were all on Bondi Beach. There were just small little runs from 3 or 4 different people, which meant I could amalgamate it into, instead of them going for 2 or 3 hours per week, I was going for 2 days per week. So it worked out really well. I had instant work, clients to earn money off, but it was a steep learning curve. I'd never been in business before. I'd never cleaned windows before. So apart from a little practice at home for an hour or two before I started. But that was it. I was learning as I going, making mistakes. So it had its advantages in that the money was coming in for what I had invested, but the challenges were a lot. And not long after I started, the whole tax and services situation changed in Australia, and I had to learn all that. So it was quite a steep learning curve, but it brought money straight away. The other thing, the reason I say no is because if I could have worked for somebody
Mhm.
for a period of time, that would have helped me learn the skills while getting paid and not having to run the business. I would have just learned window cleaning. And I noticed in the interviews that I did, both David Baker in Adelaide and Brock Torning in Sydney said the same thing. Work for someone, do a paid apprenticeship kind of thing so that you learn on the job under someone else's watch. You learn how to run the customer flow, you learn how to use the tools, and it takes the pressure off having to run a business. But I guess either way, whether I would buy another run today or I wouldn't, the bottom line is there's so many resources now that you can learn how to run a business. You know, YouTube, you've got podcasts to listen to, you've got window cleaning communities that just weren't there back in 1996. It was a very isolated industry compared to
Mm.
what it is today. Mm.
Yeah. So coming forward to 2016, you didn't have either of those options. So when we came back from Thailand, um, we didn't have the money for you to buy any rounds because we'd sold our entire business to move to Thailand. So we didn't have the money for you to buy another business, another round or run. But it wasn't an option for you to work for somebody either. So you had to take a third option. What was that?
Well, third option was something that I picked up from, I noted from Byron Guest's interview, where when he started, he had a part-time job on the side, which brought some money in
Mm.
while he was building his business. So that's what I did. So I worked as a barista, which I had always wanted to do, work as a barista, because I love coffee. So I worked as a barista, so there was some money coming in. I also did some part-time work for a friend's accountancy office, doing some data entry. So there was some part-time jobs coming in while I was building up my window cleaning business. And that seemed to work. Just it kept me occupied, and I think it reduced some of the stress that the business was slow getting started.
Yeah, yeah. So what would you say are some of the advantages and the disadvantages of starting a run from scratch?
Well, I'll deal with the disadvantages first. The disadvantages are that you haven't got income straight up. It's
Hmm.
it's very much a drip feed scenario, and that can be stressful because you think, why isn't it scaling quicker? What am I doing wrong? There's the scope for overthinking it and starting to get negative because things aren't taking going as quickly as you'd hoped. Um, then there's the aspect of, am I canvassing in the right suburbs with the right demographic? And I think what I learned from that experience is I started in the wrong place because the suburbs I started in aren't places that people historically would spend money on window cleaning.
That's
So
true.
that's something that I learned. But the advantages is that you're handpicking the clients. You're not just inheriting clients
Mm.
um, that can be. I remember when one of the jobs we bought in Bondi. Do you remember that really filthy cafe? I think it was an Indian restaurant,
We
and we had to
hated
clean the
it.
grease. Remember that? And
Yeah,
we'd get there once a month. Yeah, we only went once a month, but it was such a shocker. We had to go on a separate day to all the other shops
yeah,
because that's when it was closed, and it was grease galore.
yeah.
And but that came with the job, and you can't,
It came with the run, that's right. Yeah.
I hated that job. So when you start from scratch, you're actually handpicking. You can look at a place and think, no, 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 I'm not going in to canvas there. I'll go next door. You can
Yeah, yeah.
handpick your
Which is
client.
why we've never gone back to cleaning a dentist surgery.
Mm,
That was another nightmare job.
very nice, especially when you knock over all the drill bits and they
Yes,
fall all over the floor.
yes.
Yes. So that's the thing. That's what you've got to weigh up. They're the things that you have to be prepared to accept if you do start from scratch. And there's the other angle too is you have to work out when I go canvassing my messaging. Sometimes it's very difficult to spend a number of hours non-stop canvassing, just trying to
Yeah,
build up clientele. So
yeah.
yeah, that's the things I've learned since 2016.
So for someone starting up, there are three routes. They can either buy a run that's already established,
Yeah.
they could work for somebody first and learn the ropes.
And the thing with that too is working for someone. I know some window cleaners who worked for someone and then partially bought someone's business.
Hmm.
So then they're taking on the business that they've already got to know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's the third route. Yeah.
Or then you can start from scratch. Each has its benefits, each has its drawbacks, as any business does.
As any business does. The thing is, I think people have to remember that when you're going into business, there is going to be an element of risk. In
Mhm.
any of those three directions you take starting a window cleaning business, there will be an element of risk. You can't have a business that's risk free. Um, and I think sometimes people, when they go to buy a window cleaning business, they want it to be risk free.
Mhm.
It's just not
There's
possible.
no such thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
have to wear the risk and roll with it. Yeah.
Okay. So getting back to then starting a run or starting in the business, however you get into it, what kind of equipment would you set up?
Well, in both in '96 and in 2016, the two different startup methods that we followed, I started with traditional tools and I started small. So back in 1996, I just started with Eteray brass channels and Eteray hound dog channels, which you can still buy. Um, then I fell out of love with those and went from there. But I started with traditional tools, the basic kit, bucket, squeegee washer, detailing cloths, an extension pole. Basically, and in both situations, they fitted into the boot or the trunk of the car. I didn't have to have a big van for those limited number of tools, but I could go out and make money. And I thought that was interesting when I interviewed Brock Torning from Window Cleaning World. His number one tip for newbies was to start traditional, don't start expensive. For $500, you can get all the gear and go out and earn some money. So the importance of that is that you start to master the techniques of cleaning windows.
Mm.
And there's specific techniques. I don't know if you remember when we were in Thailand, we came across that young fellow trying to use a washer and a squeegee on a KFC.
We did. Yeah, I did.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I thought, I just went and I just had to go and demonstrate how to do it properly. But a lot of people pick up the tools and they don't have any idea. And it's just because you need to practice. So starting with traditional tools is so important. And that helps you then build up the quality. John O'Bull said the same thing, get some quality before you get some speed. And you can do that with some traditional equipment. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's good advice. Now, you have been one for experimenting with other tools, haven't you? You haven't always stayed with certain things. Sometimes that's been forced. I remember you have occasionally poured a squeegee down a drain, which has
Yes,
forced you to try another tool.
I lost one of my Etheray brass squeegees in the first 6 to 8 months because I thought it was a good idea to empty my bucket down the drain.
The
And a
street
squeegee.
drain, yeah.
So anyway, but I've had to upgrade and for various reasons, or sometimes I've lost them. So I haven't been afraid to upgrade. So as I said, I started with Etheray brass channels and hand dog. I've tried Sorbo. I've tried the Unger Ninja. I've tried Wagtail. Interesting story about Wagtail. In my first year cleaning at Bondi, where I had my first business, Bondi Beach, I was cleaning a cafe using my regular tools, and this guy came out from the cafe who was sitting there having coffee, and he said, "I've got something better for you." And he went out to his car and showed me the Wagtail orbital pivoting squeegee. Now, I'd never heard of Wagtail at that point, but back then in the 90s, Wagtail was quite innovative. And when he demonstrated it and he let me try it on that cafe, I was hooked. And I've used pivotal tools ever since. So I still have in my bucket, not the original Wagtail orbital I bought, but I still have a Wagtail orbital in my bucket because it has a great place in the toolbox. So I find the advantage of experimenting with different tools is then you find that certain jobs need a particular tool. And when they're regular jobs, you just know at this job, these are the tools to use. At this job, these are the tools to use. So then it minimizes the frustration, but you also get an efficiency going because you have a variety of tools at your disposal. It does mean that you end up with a whole lot of tools sitting there that you don't use anymore, but which I've had that issue. But it's really important as you master traditional to be able to learn and see what else is out there and be able to upgrade it. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take a lot of money to get started in the industry.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't take a lot.
Excuse
And
me.
by doing that, you then starting slow. Nathan Ursak has this saying. He's from NWS Soft Washing. In our interview together, he has this saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. He reckons he got it from some movie, but that really captures learning traditional, just starting slowly, getting the skill set, and you will start to increase your speed, your efficiency, more jobs in the day, more money in the bank.
Yeah, good advice. Very good advice. Now, every business needs clients. So how would you find clients if you were starting again now?
Well, the very first thing I do is start a Google My Business page. That's essential in this digital era to have that set up.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a few weeks because you've got to get it all verified, but Google will set you up, gets you a location. It allows you then to start promoting your business through Google search pages in your area. And you can nominate, of course, some areas that you want to cover. So that's the first thing. Now, to enhance your Google My Business page, you need some pictures of jobs that you've done. So this is a really good thing that I've done is I do a few freebie jobs for friends and family and then ask them for their reviews. They can put the reviews on the Google page and off you go. You've got the first 3 or 4 reviews on the page, photos of their homes with their permission is on the page. People can see, okay, yep, this is the type of place he does. And then when you get your first retail job, take a picture of that, put it on the page so that it starts getting a little traction.
Because none of
Now,
that costs any money, does it?
it doesn't cost a cent. Doesn't cost a cent. Just to cost you some time to do it. And of course, your friends, when you do the freebie jobs, your friends love it because they're getting that job done for free. Then following that, advertising on free forums, and there's so many. So where we live here on the Bayside of Brisbane, there's Facebook forums for Wynnum Manly, where we are. There's local directories. There's social groups on Facebook, such as the Social Mums Club. There's business pages that allow you to tell people about your business. There's digital notice boards around the country of window cleaning businesses, and they're all free. They don't cost you anything. The other thing, of course, is you can leave business cards. One of the interviews that will be landing in 2026 is of a woman in the UK who printed a whole lot of flyers, and in her part-time job away from window cleaning, every person she met got a flyer about her business. So constantly giving out these flyers, this information, it could be a business card, that's all free. Yeah. In addition, what else can we do? Cold calling of storefronts is something I've done a number of times over the years. Pick your time of the week when you do that, because sometimes it's a really busy part of the week. You don't want to be interrupting them. So often early in the week works very well, but that's really important. Just present well. I've done door knocking of one time I was looking for a whole lot of residential, so I just door knocked an estate that was on a private golf course. So they really wanted their windows cleaned, so I picked up some clients that way. And after you've done those kind of jobs that you've got through Facebook forums, through cold calling, through door knocking, immediately ask for reviews back onto your Google page, and then you start to build up some momentum. Ask your clients to refer you. Is there anyone that you know? At some points, I've done campaigns where if you refer a client and they book you in, you get 10% off your next job. So those kind of little things can help people. So they're all the free things that I've done that I would do if I was starting again.
I think you've also in some instances when you've done like retirement apartments and things like that, you've said if you can get 4 or 5 other people to come on board, I can do it for X amount of dollars.
Thank you for reminding me of that. I have got a big retirement village here in Brisbane that one lady rang me about. And so I said, well, it'll be this price, but we'll give you $25 off if there's 5 people, 4 or 5 people on the same day, which
Mm,
is so good because I just park at one spot and they're all in one little lane area, and they all know each other. And so you have these jobs. So it just
mm,
makes, yes, those kind of things can make a big difference. And so every year that lady books me, she chases the other clients. I don't have to chase them. She does the work for me. And we have a busy day once a year in this little retirement area. So they're different things that you can think about, looking around your community. Have we got those kind of facilities here that I could leverage to my advantage? So
because then
they're all
you've
the
got
three
the
things.
the paid ways of getting clients. What are they?
Well, of course, in '96 there wasn't anything apart from advertising in the Yellow Pages book, or the trade section of newspapers. And back in '96 they worked well, but today with digital being such a prominent
Mm,
part of people's search, I've used Google Ads, I've used Facebook ads, paid Facebook ads, and paid Google ads. But I've also spent money on lead platforms. So in 2016, when we restarted here in Brisbane, I used 2 lead platforms, one Flare and High Pages. Um, and they have their disadvantages, but they also have their advantages. If you use it well, you can start to accumulate some clients. And on those platforms, they have review, you can collect reviews there. So I think on one of them, I've got like 50 5-star reviews
mm.
for the 2 or 3 years that I used one Flare when we first started in Brisbane. And some of those clients I still do to this day. Every twice a year I'm at their house, and they were from lead platforms. So that costs you money, but advertising does cost you money.
Mm,
You
it's
it's
true.
called investing in your business. So I know some tradies don't want to spend money on that, but you know, you spend money on tools to make it work and efficiency, and paid advertising can be an effective means to build your client base.
Yeah. But you can get creative as well, and there are many different avenues that don't cost a great deal of money that can still get you good clients, good
Yeah,
leads.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's so true.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now, some things don't change with time. A lot has changed since 1996 or even 2016. But one of the things that doesn't change is the importance of professionalism. So, how would you go about building a professional brand in 2026?
Firstly, have kind of a uniform brand. Like this is my uniform. Everyone who watches my podcast sees this shirt. This is what the color shirt I wear when I'm out cleaning windows. I don't have a badge or anything like that. I don't have embroidery, but I have a visual, and it
We did try the embroidery route, but that didn't work for very long.
no,
Used to get those very dirty.
yeah, that's right. But it also can match. It also kind of matches what's on my van, the signage, so people can see a brand. So, of course, this costs money, but I've also, when I remember when I first started in '96, some of the window cleaners that I bought the businesses off, the rounds off, would just turn up down a Bondi in their board shorts and a really daggy t-shirt. And you're thinking, where's the professionalism? Or how they answer the phone used to freak me out, because where's the professionalism? So from those experiences back then, I learned that a good presentation, punctuality is really important. People, especially residential, punctuality, people want you to be there on time, which of course means you have to learn how to schedule well so you're not cramming and over schedule, and then you get late to the next job because they don't care what jobs you've had before. You're just late at their job, and that upsets them.
Yeah.
But it's not just punctuality. I've learned that it's also when you answer the phone. Do you remember that thing we used to have where before it got too digital back in the day, we would try and return a call within 15 minutes? whether they rang at
Yeah.
home. Remember that? And
I
you
think
would quickly send me a
I think it
message.
was an hour, but yes, we always returned a call within an hour.
Oh, was it an hour? Yeah. And I would try and get back within 15 minutes because,
Mm.
you would diligently get the details to me if they rang on the home phone.
Yeah, that's right.
And people would be shocked how quickly I got back.
It was a small thing, but it said a lot.
Yeah, because, and even today, when people send a quote request through the website and I call them within 10 or 15 minutes,
Mm.
people are still shocked that a tradesperson gets back to them quickly. So this is where good client communication, you know, in the early stages of the interaction,
Mm.
get back to them quickly, get back to them with the quote, in a few days. I always let them know it's going to be a couple of days. Those kind of things just help build a good relationship.
Mm.
And I've had so many jobs, I've lost count of people who booked me in simply because one, I was punctual in my phone calls, got back to them quickly, got information to them quickly. They just didn't bother with other trades getting other quotes because this worked for them. So, you know, that's just good customer service, I think, and yeah. And along the way, you just work hard at doing the best job. I think that's another thing. And having an enthusiasm about it, because I've grown to love window cleaning. And I think if someone's starting, which is an advantage of working with someone at the beginning, because you can see whether you are going to
Mm.
like this industry or not.
That's true.
Um, the interview that will be released later in January with Natasha Williams from the UK, she said when she onboards someone, it helped. They just work with her to see if they will grow to love the business, the
Hmm.
industry, because it's no point doing something that you're not going to love. And one of the things I adopted, probably thanks to thanks to a little pivotal phone call. Remember that phone call I got back in the not long after we started our business from a friend who rang and said, "How are you, Duncan?" And I said, "Not bad."
Hmm.
Remember that story?
Hmm.
And you chipped me on it, which was very good. Are you really unhappy? And I wasn't. It was just this Aussie putting yourself down thing. Um, and I learned that in, being enthusiastic is important. So for many years, we had that saying on our website, on our social media: enthusiasm is how does it go?
Enthusiasm is
Enthusiasm is a
not a
matter of
random
choice, not a
mood.
random mood.
It's a matter of choice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a random mood; it's a matter of choice. So when we build that appreciation or enthusiasm, that's a professionalism that's free, it doesn't cost you anything. And all of the people that I interviewed in the podcast in 2025 all said the same thing. They love the industry. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. So apart from uniforms, every one of those is free. That doesn't
Yeah.
cost any money. And the uniforms don't have to cost a lot of money. We never invested a great deal. And when we bought good quality shirts for you, they last for years.
Yes.
So,
Like it's the old you get what you pay for.
so there's a lot of talk in business about niching. So what's your take on that? Yes or no?
That's a good question. I've read a lot about niching in recent times, seen a lot of social media posts about niching. I think when I started in 1996, I didn't know the word existed.
Hmm.
So, but in fact, when I look back to then, that's what I did because I just focused on shops and homes. And homes weren't a key focus because I had 3 days of shops. Homes were like the icing on the cake. They were the cream jobs that just threw a bit of extra money into the bank. Whereas in 2016, I decided because I was starting from scratch, I would see if I could work out some add-ons. If I did get a house, do I now clean solar panels? Could I now do pressure washing, So I tried that. But then in 2022, I niched back down. I got rid of all those add-ons like solar panel, pressure washing, and I've gone back to niche back to high-end residential. So I think everyone has to just take their time at working out their direction. I
Mm.
notice most of the guests that I talked to in 2025, they knew what their market was, and that's what they focused on. So, while in our business here in Brisbane, we focus on high-end residential. David
Yeah.
Baker in Adelaide, his focus is on large facilities like schools and nursing homes. And a residential job it's just a little cream on the top of the cake. It's not the big focus. Whereas other guests, it's residential only. They don't do other things. So I think we've just got to, it has its place to really think about. It does help in narrowing how you market
Mm.
and
Yes.
what you do on social media, because you know what kind of client you're looking for. And so that way, when you're talking to people, so when people see my van and then start a conversation with me, I already know these must be people who have their home. I know this is my niche. I can start to really promote my business in my conversation with them because I already have in mind this is my direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you have a friend who has a very unique niche. Tell us about that.
Yeah, good old Ashley. He's a very clued on operator based down in Melbourne. Ashley focuses a lot on mainly on multi-story nursing homes and resorts. So that means he's got to be in what do they call them? Elevated work platforms, EWPs. So he has all the licenses for those. He also has all the licenses for harnesses, and um, he actually now has more brought that niche, narrowed it further, where he now then does safety testing on harnesses for those kind of window cleaning jobs, to the point where his side hustle is now installing all the anchor points in buildings to make it safer for people.
Hmm.
And because that's his two little focus points in his business, there is such little competition. He basically can charge more higher than market value and make good money for those jobs. So it's just an advantage of being able to see a direction and then zero in on it and really focus on it. So niching does play an important role if we're going to succeed.
So if you were starting in 2026, what kind of technology would you use? Technology's everywhere these days. So what would you start up with?
I'd start up with Instagram and TikTok, Facebook, of course, because you can link Facebook with Instagram. The great thing is that it's free, gets your brand out there. And after you've done those free jobs on for your friends and family, and you put their pictures on Google My Business, you can put those pictures on your social media. Hashtag it. You've got a little brand starting to happen on social media.
And if you get your friends to put those pictures on their social media, then that might generate referrals as well.
That's right, absolutely. So that does expand the scope.
Hmm.
Of course, back in 1996, everything was on paper. So that was, diary. I had a paper diary, the invoices and receipts, all the
Run
client.
sheets every week, run sheets.
Yeah, that's right. And then, of course, there's all the finance, you pulling out the red book with the ins and outs and all that sort of thing. It was really
Hmm.
time consuming. So that could work if I was cash strapped. That would still work today. You could still do it as you got started. But as soon as I could afford it, I would get the technology that's going to bring all of those different jobs together. So I would use an app like Squeegee App, which I started using in 2020. I discovered it in 2020. It's an app that's built by window cleaners for window cleaners.
Mm-hmm.
It quotes, it invoices, it schedules. You can send notifications. You can take payments through Stripe on it. So it's an all-in-one that's designed for the industry. I spent a lot of time looking at other software um, that was based in Australia, that was designed for all trades, very generic. So you're trying to squeeze that software into your window cleaning routine, and it just gets frustrating. So having something that is purpose built, that's what I would immediately try and pay and you get going, because it saves so much time with admin.
And it is an expense, it's true, but when you've got purpose-built software, so for my own business, coaching business, I use a software that is, again, designed by coaches for coaches. It's not cheap, but it's wonderful. It's so purpose-built that the expense is outweighed by the convenience and the really good fit for your business.
Yes, and I've found too and I think you have found with, is that called Paper Bill, the one you're referring to?
Yeah.
You found with that, and I found with Squeegee App, is that the backup service is good. When I've had some challenges, I've just
Yeah.
emailed them and like, oh, Duncan, yeah, sorry about that. This is what you do. Squeegee App have training videos so that you can learn how to use it effectively. It's just really, really good. So, and connected with that is having the setup. If you don't take payments through something like Squeegee App, but just being able to take payments on the job, that has been a massive game changer.
Mm.
So now that you've got things like Stripe, Square payments, um, you can then just take the Xero accounting software. If you're using that for accounting, they take payments for invoices. It just saves so much time. People pay right then and there. You don't have to chase them. And that's really useful. The other thing I would do with technology, prepare yourself, listeners, I would embrace AI right from the beginning.
Mm.
You can waste a lot of time using it and not really get anywhere. But if you learn to use it properly, it can generate social media posts, advertising copy. You can brainstorm how to drill down into your niche, how to find an ideal client avatar. What is the person that you're really focusing on in your advertising and social media? And you can create some really good client communication skills and client communication copy.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my email reminders for different seasons of the year, AI helps me generate those emails.
So you've
So
been
yeah, I would.
experimenting with AI right from the start. So we've been using that, what, 3 years now, I guess.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So give us an example of a client communication that you handled with AI very early on.
So I was talking to a friend of mine who's window cleaning in the UK, and um, one of the biggest things with window cleaners is that we have got these clients, but we're afraid to raise the
Hmm.
prices. We think, oh, I'll just leave it for another year. And then that goes for a third year and a fourth year. So we get a bit nervous thinking that we're going to lose the clients if we raise the prices. We can't exist like that. So I was talking to Paul, and he said, I'm at a point where I have to raise my prices, but I don't know the wording. I don't know how to tell them. So I used AI, and we put together 2 or 3 samples of emails he could send out to his clients, just telling them that he's going to raise the prices, and cushion it with some reasons why. So it takes the heat off, that it's not that we don't like you anymore or whatever. It's just that this is the reality of business.
Hmm.
And he found that really helpful for his business. And I think I've shared those emails with a number of other window cleaners that I talk to in the UK. So that simple thing, because we're window cleaners, not all of us are clever at writing. So
Mhm.
having that technology just takes the heat off so that we can word it in a really professional manner. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you also mentioned using AI to generate social media posts. Now, you created something interesting to help with that. What was that?
I think that, I think the question is we create something.
Well, I'm not
I
going to
don't
take the
know.
credit for it. I created, but
Thank you. Yeah, you created.
I created because I
Yes, you
love
did.
AI.
Yes, because you're so we created a GPT that's called Done for You Post Buddy.
So a GPT is a customized AI bot.
That's right. So we're using Chat GPT. It's within Chat GPT,
Yeah.
customized bot. And it literally asks you some questions such as where was the job? What was the job like? Was it a house, a shop? What was it? Some features, and it will then generate, based on those questions, generate 3 or 4 sample social media posts about that job. So the only thing you then have to do is put the picture in that you've taken, copy and paste that, and it will also show you what hashtags to put in so that you've got this professional looking social media post
Yeah.
done for you in no time at all.
So we created that. So what did you call it?
Done for you post buddy.
So we created the Done For You Post Buddy as something that could be shared with anybody. So to be able to use that, all they need is a link. So we can supply that link and people can try that out for themselves. Some very quick AI generated social media posts.
Yeah. So if anyone's interested, DM us and we'll help you out.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground, Duncan. Have you got any final words for someone who's thinking of getting into window cleaning or is new to the game?
Talk to somebody, spend some time with somebody. Don't be afraid to contact someone and say, hey, can I have a coffee? I'm thinking of getting into the business. Uh, what are some things that I need to know? I've taken people with me over in the past who they've come and worked with me for a day, got a feel for the industry, gone into the industry.
Mhm.
But that kind of thing, just get in touch with people. Try and do as much research as you can. There's so many good videos like, Luke the window cleaner from the United States. You've got Squeegee Cleaned over in the UK, Byron Guest in Australia. You've got a number of people on social media who've got good content. You can learn a lot from that. You can look at
Mhm.
our window cleaning channel, McRae's Window Cleaning on YouTube. There's so much content there. Just talk to us, find out about it, learn about what you need to do. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And even after you've started, if you're struggling, don't be afraid to ask questions. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you're learning. And we can never, you know, fail if we continue to try and learn. I'm still learning after 30 years of the
Yeah.
industry. So don't be afraid of doing that. You don't have to don't get caught up in the TikTok generation of window cleaning where there's young people spending thousands of dollars to get started. You don't need to do that. Just keep it real. Just keep it low key. Get started. Talk to veterans in the industry, and that's going to help you to have a long term vision and a long term business success.
Well done. Well, there's lots to think about there, and I'm sure anybody that is considering window cleaning has got some really valuable advice there.
Next week, actually in 2 weeks' time, we're kicking off something I've been really excited about, and I've been planning for a while for the podcast, highlighting women who are at the forefront of window cleaning. So I'll be sitting down with Natasha Williams. Her business is called Kiss My Glass. She's based in the UK, and she's got a story that's fascinating. So we're going to then be talking to a number of women, both in the UK and Australia, who are really raging successes. They're crushing it in the industry. So that's some features for 2026. Thank you very much for listening to our discussion. And I think all of us who are in the industry can use 2026 to get some clarity in their business and to really succeed. Thank you for being part of the podcast, Sharon.
You're welcome. It was very enjoyable. Trip down memory lane.